Hello, and welcome to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar with Dr. Scott Saunders. We have a very special guest today, and that is you. Hi, I'm Leslie Prince, the host of today's webinar. Normally, these valuable webinars are only open to our members, but today we're sharing with our newcomers as we dig in and learn more about how to reverse type 2 diabetes.
It's only dangerous to stop insulin if your pancreas is not making insulin. So if your pancreas is not making insulin, you need insulin. So stopping that might not be a good idea. How do you know? Well, that's why we do the C-peptide test. Remember C-peptide? That test tells how much of the insulin in your body is from your pancreas, because the insulin you're injecting doesn't make C-peptide, only your pancreas will make it. So when your pancreas makes insulin, it's extra long, and then in order to activate it, you have an enzyme that cuts off that C-peptide, and that just hangs around for a little while, and the insulin goes to work and does its work, but you have that extra one from your pancreas. So that's how you know if your pancreas is working. And so that's the next thing to do, is say, okay, I've got I'm injecting insulin down to 40. That's a decent amount, where now you can check your pancreas to see if you're making insulin. And if your pancreas is making insulin, then you can take next steps and get off that injection.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. We are glad that you guys are here. We are on episode, I believe, like 165. So we've been doing this for a while, and I'm really excited because we're bringing in some special guests. Some of you may know that my husband was on last week, and you may not have known that he even was a part of the Barton team, but today we have another special guest, and Dr. Saunders will be joining us shortly as well. But I want to go ahead and introduce you to Eric on our team. I'm going to let him introduce himself here in just a minute. I'm going to wait to make sure we have everything working properly here. One of the things I have to do is change the chat so you guys can chat with us. If you have questions that come up during our webinar, feel free to post those in the Q&A. That's just kind of the best place for us to manage those. And I'm going to make sure the chat's working. So say hello if you're on. Let us know where you're tuning in from. That's always a fun thing to know. And let us know if you've purchased the Diabetes Solution Kit. We like to know that. To kind of see where you guys are at. If it's something that you're currently using, never heard of, you don't even know how you got on this webinar, you just clicked some link in an email, let us know, because we kind of like to know where a lot of you are. Some of you join us each week, and a lot of you are often brand new when you hop on the webinar. So we're so glad that you guys are here. We always focus on type 2. That's kind of our main thing that we do here. All 160 plus episodes, we're talking about type 2. And so every other week we focus in on one topic typically. And this week we're going to kind of talk about some of the basics and answer a lot of your questions. So again, post in the chat if you're able. Sometimes it doesn't. Oh, I think I can. Now it will work. Now it'll work for you guys. Okay, chat is disabled. I fixed that. If you're on Facebook, feel free to comment there too. I'm going to do my best to check that while I'm going through the questions in our Q&A as well. But one of the things, Lloyd, you're here. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, can I share a little bit of your story? You let me know. I had some of the best conversations with some of our customers. I was just briefly mentioning this to Eric, who I will have him introduce himself, but I'll quick say this. One of the things that I love to do is chat with you guys. And so if you're interested in sharing a little bit about how your journey is going, I'd love to hear from you. Leslie at bartonpublishing.com. But I get to chat with a few of you this week, and your stories, I just was really encouraged by you guys. And a lot of you are doing the hard work. You've been in the trenches. You maybe recently, some of you, I think, had only been doing the Diabetes Solution Kit for 3 weeks, and you're already throwing away medicines, which don't tell Dr. Saunders. But Hi, Dr. Saunders. Uh, and I'm so proud of you guys. I'm so excited for you, and I'm excited to share those stories with our team. But one of the people that I got to talk with was Lloyd, who I can see is on here. And I haven't told either of these guys any of your story, but I will tell you this: he got all new teeth yesterday, and so I think this was the surgery. He had to have his numbers down to a certain level before he could have surgery. Is that right? Am I saying that right? Maybe you should type a little bit of your
usually
story.
you have to have they're not going to do, if your blood sugars are 200 300, they're not going to do surgery, especially like they don't want to do that on your teeth. So
yes, and he did it. And so he had surgery yesterday. And I actually emailed you today, Lloyd. So I'm glad to see. I wanted to make sure everything went okay. But you did it in a real quick amount of time. I got to chat with him and his wife. They gave me a tour of their property. I won't tell you where it is, but it was amazing. And I might have to go visit them because it was beautiful. But I just loved it, hearing their story. And so I'm so impressed that you're on, Lloyd. That is amazing. Okay. All right. Back to what I said we were going to do. Welcome, Dr. Saunders. We're so glad that you are here. I'm going to have Eric from our team introduce himself, kind of give you an idea of, how long he's been with the team, what he does. And take it away, Eric.
Hey, thanks, Leslie. So I've been on before. So some of you have been around for a while. I know this is a support group for a lot of you to come back to every week and get inspired and educated. I'm Eric, handle the marketing for Barton. Been on the team for almost a year now. And just love the Barton team. Feel bad that Joe couldn't be here today. So actually, I brought a surprise. I'm sure Leslie could tell what's coming here by looking at the collar. Whoa. Okay. So we're going to get the rest of the team here. You know this guy. He's on pretty much every week. But this guy right now, Leslie's husband, doing a little masterminding in Austin, Texas. So I'm filling in. Happy to be here. Going to be kind of a mouse in the corner. But just want to say thank you to all of our customers. We do all of this for you. The mission at Barton is to deliver hope and healing. We want to help people more. And the webinar has been a really big way for us to find out how we can help you. So don't be afraid to ask your questions, get them out there, even if we don't have time to get to them all on the webinar. We are reading them, considering them, trying to find solutions to all of it. Our fearless leader, Dr. Saunders, really does an amazing job of paving the way on that with all of his wisdom. So with that, I'm going to mute myself and let you talk to the guy you came here to talk to.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. And Eric is on our leadership team too. So that's kind of the goal. I mentioned this on the last webinar, is to have some of our team members. You guys you've probably seen quite a few of them, but our team is actually probably smaller than you think. And we are small, but we're mighty, right? Like, we do a lot of stuff. And so, and we have other people, that are maybe not on full time that work with us as well, but they all are going to be hopping on and just kind of getting a feel for what happens on the webinars. They want to learn from Dr. Saunders, just like you guys are. They want to hear your stories. And this is a really good place to do that. This is kind of this is our favorite part of the week, right? I was mentioning that I got to chat with a lot of you, and a lot of you have given us feedback that this webinar is where you go for information, for support, and for hope. And that was one of the biggest things that I heard this week in chatting with a lot of you was, when you get a diagnosis or you're not feeling well, you can kind of go to some dark places. But a lot of you have said that in a short amount of time, just making some little changes has given you hope that you can do this, that you can change your health, and that you can you can live better. And so that's what we love about Dr. Saunders, is that's what he wants for you. That's what he gives to his patients that come in to see him. And that's what we're excited to share. So with that being said, Dr. Saunders, welcome back. Would you mind giving us a disclaimer and telling us why it's important to do that?
Okay, so the disclaimer is that the information that you get here may not be for you specifically. That it's general information, but the application will depend on whether you need that or not. So how do you know if you need it? Well, you need to work with somebody, or maybe ask questions or find out if that fits your situation or not. So sometimes you have to work with a professional and say, hey, do I have type 1 or type 2? And they go, well, you probably have type 2. Well, how can we find out for sure? Well, let's do the hemoglobin A1C test and the C-peptide test and the insulin test and the sugar test. And we'll do those 4 tests, and then we'll be able to look at how your pancreas is functioning and whether you're insulin. Anyway, so the importance is that it is knowing where you fit and whether the information applies to you or not.
Great. A question that came in is, and I said I was going to start asking you more questions about this, but what is your background? And I know that you're busy and you work a lot, but tell us, where do you work and what do you do, Dr. Saunders?
Okay, so I see patients every day. I went to UCLA Medical School. I did a family practice residency program. I worked in for the county of Santa Barbara for a few years, and I've worked in nursing homes for 15 years. So, you know, the broad spectrum. I've delivered 200 babies. Let's see. I've worked in.
That was another new fact I didn't know. Told you every time I learn something new. Here we go.
So I used to own an urgent care. So I did urgent care work for a long time, and we had an X-ray. I was a X-ray tech supervisor. So I've been around the block a few times in different ways. And so what I do now, though, is I see patients. Every patient I have at least an hour with, and what I do, instead of using drugs to treat the symptoms of illness, I look for the root cause of why things happen. So I don't just work with diabetes. I have people with thyroid problems. I had someone the other day with Wilson's disease. I've never found a case of Wilson's disease. That's a copper overload in the liver. I have people with irritable bowel syndrome and inflammatory bowel disease and migraine headaches and all kinds of things. And the purpose is, instead of just saying, oh, you have a migraine headache? Here, take a pill and that'll relieve your headache. What happens when I get another one? Well, then you take another pill. And then what happens when I get another? Then you take another pill. Where's the end of that? Well, there's no end until somebody asks the question, why do you get migraine headaches? And if it's a hormone imbalance, then we fix that and you never get another migraine. Well, what if it's a magnesium deficiency? Well, we fix that and then you never get another migraine. What if it's a thyroid or adrenal problem? Well, we fix that and you never get another headache. So the idea is that if you take away the root cause, then the symptoms go away and medications become unnecessary. So that's where we are today in our the basics of diabetes. You go to a doctor and the doctor says, oh, you have diabetes. Probably type 2. We didn't test, but we assume that's what it is. So we're going to give you these medications. What does the medication do? Well, it relieves one of your symptoms, just one. It lowers the blood sugar. Well, what does that do? Well, it just lowers the blood sugar. That's all. So you have a better blood sugar. But does it decrease my risk of getting Alzheimer's? No, not at all. Does that decrease my risk of getting kidney failure and going on dialysis? No, not at all. Does that decrease my risk of getting an amputation of my feet? No, not at all. It just lowers your blood sugar. That's all. That's all you get from the drugs. In fact, one of the larger studies called the UKPDS, United Kingdom diabetes study. I don't know what the P is for. This is an old one. This was done like in the 1980s, 1990s. This old study. It showed that people who took the medications for blood sugar and blood pressure, the heart medications for cholesterol, they had better blood sugar. Their blood sugar really went down. Their blood pressure was better, so the medications brought their blood pressure down, and their cholesterol was better, so the medications worked. It did everything they were supposed to do. The problem was they had more Alzheimer's, they had more heart disease, they had more amputations, and they were more likely to go on dialysis by 12%. So not a small, not like 2% or 5%, a little bit more. It was a lot more. So they had, even though they had better numbers, they had worse outcomes. So what you're looking for is, what's the long-term outcome? How can I improve my blood sugar? Yeah, but that's just the symptom. That's just the superficial part. You want to go deep underneath there and go, why am I getting high blood sugars? And remove that. And that's what this program is all about, is what's the root? What's the bottom line? So one of the reasons we have this program where you can answer questions is because everybody's different. And you go, wait, but my problem is this. And we've had people we've told on this program and say, well, you know what? Our program is not the right one for you. You need to buy this book and go on someone else's program. And why? Because people are different. People just are different.
So good. One of the things that I thought was really interesting that I had never thought about was last week you said, in medical school, you're taught to give medications to patients, but you're not taught how to take them off of medications.
Yeah. And that's why if you've gone to the doctor and they've said, here, take this medication. Well, how long? Well, for the rest of your life. What if it doesn't work? Well, we'll add another one. We'll keep you on that one and add another one on top of it. And what if they don't work? Well, we'll keep you on those two and we'll add another one on top of that. And so because we don't know how to get you off of medications, all we know is to add another one on. So you end up with, 6 or 7 medications. And there are plenty of people out there on, 10 or 15 medications, because this one that's not working is having side effects. So they have to take this medication so that they can relieve the side effects of this medication that isn't working, that they're still on, because nobody knows how to stop it. Is that crazy?
Yes. And it actually brings me to a question that came up with someone that I was chatting with this week. One of our, she may be on the webinar right now. Actually, I should look, Tanya. Great questions. I'm going to brag on her for a little bit. I hope she's okay with this, but she recently got married, had carpal tunnel surgery, and then her new husband has type 2, and he never really had the support to, make changes that he knew he should, etc. And so she's been helping him with it. She's been helping figuring out how to do the diabetes solution kit, what to cook, even though she just had surgery, but she's able to guide him. And I'll brag on him too. I hope this is okay. He was drinking a lot of Diet Mountain Dew every day, and all of a sudden decided to quit cold turkey because he was starting the diabetes solution kit.
Can you quit cold turkey? Mountain Dew?
Yeah, that's what I said.
So
this is the cool thing though. He's been drinking this for a long time, since she's known him. And she said it's even still in the refrigerator and he hasn't touched it. I was like, that is willpower.
That is.
But anyway, she is amazing. She is like, I said, I shouldn't even probably mention your name to anybody even on the webinar, because everyone's going to want to hire you to live in their homes to take care of them. But anyway, she had some questions, and great questions. So her husband was on Trulicity. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, Trulicity, metformin, and Jardiance. I have a question. She has a question about that, but I'm going to ask you this first. Why all three? What do the three of them do for type 2?
Well, the theory is that they all work in different ways. So because they work in different ways, one of them causes you to have more insulin, to make more insulin than you would normally make. So that should bring the blood sugar down a little bit. And another one blocks you from using sugar for energy, so forces your body to use fat for energy. And another one stops you from making glucagon, so that your liver doesn't make extra sugar, so you don't raise your blood sugar. So because they work in different ways, then they all work together. The idea is to bring the sugar down better. But it's counterproductive. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
Yeah. So that was one of the questions, or one of the things I was just thinking about it as you were talking about how to get off medications. So here's kind of his story. He's only been doing the Diabetes Solution Kit for 3 weeks and improved dramatically. He also cold turkey stopped the metformin and the Jardiance without asking his doctor. So I'm just going to put that out there, because you should always work with your doctor, right? So his numbers have only gone up a little bit. And so she's wondering, can he get off of Trulicity, do you think?
Oh yeah.
And
absolutely.
I said, it's good to work with your doctor. I believe they'll go in February, but that's his goal, is to be able to be done with all of these medications. Now, this is a fun question that she asked that I did not know for sure. Her concern was, if he is off of all 3 of those medications, will his doctor still write the prescription for his continuous glucose monitor?
Dang.
How terrible is that we have to ask that?
A good doctor definitely would. And if not, then consider looking for another doctor and going, you know what, I need help with this. And I need this CGM.
Yes.
Because it's interesting. I had someone in my office who doesn't have diabetes, and he goes, "Gosh, I want to get a continuous glucose monitor. I want to see what my blood sugar is doing," because he's starting a new lifestyle program, and he is taking on has a smoothie that he's supposed to be a super smoothie, right? And so he wants one of those. So if I had diabetes, I would definitely want a CGM.
Yes. And that's been very motivating for him as well. He checks it all the time. And she said that's one of the things that, because he feels in control of it, and he can see it, and it's just working so well. So super proud of them. But I wanted to ask those questions. And then I have one more question that came in from Maria. She said, I'm having a nuclear stress test, and I would like to know if it's okay with all the supplements, or do I have to stop taking them?
Okay. A nuclear stress test is to test the heart, and they inject you with a nuclear dye, and they look at how the perfusion of the heart is based on that when you're under stress. No, you can take any supplements. You don't have to stop anything. No, that's fine. You have to consider the supplements in this kind of a case, like a nuclear stress test, is like food. Yeah.
Okay. We have a lot of people on. Jeffrey, Greg, Roy, hello. Grace is back. Alfreda. Oh, so many people, you guys. This is so fun. Juliet is on. I got to meet her, I think, last week. So lots of good questions coming in from some people. I'm going to quick show you guys the Diabetes Solution Kit in case you're new. A lot of you have this, it looks like. But if you're new, this is often what we're referencing when we're talking about phase 1, phase 2.
Phase 1, phase 2.
Yes. That's what we're talking about. And that can be found at bartonnutrition.com, or you can go to bartonwebinar.com. That's where you'll find information about what we're talking about. But this is also what Dr. Saunders shares with his patients, not this actual book probably, but the information that's in it. You do. Okay. It's already put together. Why not? Right.
Yeah.
But he shares this with his patients that come into his office as well. So if you hear some references to the Diabetes Solution Kit, that's this and the phases. So, okay, let's get into some more questions. So many questions. This is so good. Let's see. Teresa says, I have the workbook in Synachroma and the magnesium spray. It all works great for me. Wonderful. Cold in Houston, 45 degrees. We have snow in South Dakota as well. Not a lot, just a little dusting. Everyone forgot how to drive when it came yesterday.
Funny how that works.
Oh man, it was crazy. Okay, Brian. Oh, I got to chat with Brian too. So Brian went through phase 1 super fast. He's now in phase 2, up to 60 grams of carbs, and he checks under 109. Awesome. Okay. I had a bunch of questions here and I lost them because I went back and saw all my friends hopped on here. So, okay. If one's iodine is fine from blood work, what does the iodine supplement do for you?
Okay. So you do a blood test and you get an iodine test, and the iodine tells you what your iodine level is at that moment. It's a moment in time, and it's changing all the time, just like your sodium is changing all the time, your potassium's changing all the time. So if you have a good level of iodine, what it means is that you're not deficient, that you're probably okay, that you may not need any at that moment. So that's one of the reasons that I recommend using iodine periodically. And why? Just because I don't test everybody for iodine, and most people are deficient in iodine. Well, how do we know that? Well, the research has shown that from 100 years ago. Why did they put iodine in the salt in the first place? Because the soils in the United States don't have iodine in them. And so only 12 years ago, they did a study in the Midwest and found high school girls, that 20% of them, 25% of them already had goiter. They had an enlarged thyroid from a lack of iodine. So it's not uncommon. It's so common to have iodine deficiency. Now, if you're eating sushi and you eat a seaweed salad and you're eating those seaweed chips or something, you're not going to be deficient in iodine. So as a general recommendation, you know what? People in the United States should take iodine, and that's why they put it in the salt in the first place. That's why.
All right. Good stuff. First timer here, Bob, welcome. It says he started on the 25th of October. Blood sugar was in the 160s prior, and blood sugar has now dropped to the low 100s within the first 7 days.
Dang, good work.
Yes. Now reigning in the 120s, no gallbladder. Blood sugar dropped to the 80s this weekend for 2 days. Now back in the 120s. Can't figure out what is going on. Any thoughts?
Okay, so there are so many factors that enter into what your blood sugar is. So it's not a simple one-to-one, I ate this, therefore my blood sugar is that. It's just not that easy. So you just look at the big picture. So your blood sugar has generally come from the 160s down into the low 100s, and the 80s, that's normal. When it's 80s, that's non-diabetic. That's perfectly normal. So that's great. But it doesn't mean it's always going to be like that, because, well, you're going to eat different things. Yeah, that's part of it. But you're also going to be different stressors. Well, if you didn't sleep as much that night, then you're going to have more cortisol, which is going to cause you to be insulin resistant, which is going to make your blood sugar go up. There are so many factors involved in that. Don't look at the minute to minute, oh, what did I eat here cause this? I mean, it'll give you a general idea. If you eat a mango and your blood sugar goes up to 300 and you go, I guess I shouldn't eat mangoes, and every time I eat a mango, my blood sugar goes up to 300, or something like that. There's a relationship there that's definitely there, but it's not the only part of it. There's a lot of factors. So the way to look at this is not to say that your blood sugar should always be 80. Okay, that's an ideal, but give it time. give it time to be generally come down to more in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't even been on this for a month yet. That's
Wow.
amazing.
Good work.
Keep it up, Bob, and keep in touch with us. Let us know how you're doing. You can email me to leslie@bartonpublishing.com. Okay, Gloria is asking, speaking of mangoes, are green smoothies good for you with added fruit like mango and apples?
Okay. We made it as simple as possible in phase one. Stick to phase one. And if you take one apple, you've pretty much used up your allotment for, and mangoes are worse. Mangoes, the tropical fruits like mangoes and pineapple, they have a lot more sugar in them. They tend to be really high in sugar. If you're on phase one, just stick to the program. And so, yeah, smoothies are great in a way. They have fiber in them. They have vitamins in them. But if you put a lot of fruit in there, they're going to have a lot of sugar too. And that's going to be outside of your program. So stay with the program. That's the best.
And if you're not familiar with the Diabetes Solution Kit, phase one, not to scare you by telling you this, but phase one, you are really limiting your carbs. So it's 20 grams of net carbs. I did have someone that I was chatting with who was doing 20 grams, not net. And I was like, you're really going for it. Good job. But you might get to 20 carbs by eating one mango, just like Dr. Saunders said. So that's kind of what he's referencing when he's talking about phase one. And there are a lot of really good recipes. I got a lot of good feedback this week from people who are taking peppers and cooking eggs in them, and just a lot of really good stuff in here. So all the information you need is here if you haven't started that. I'll just leave it at that. Okay. Oh, yeah.
I'm sure most people know what that means, but with taking fiber out of that count, how many grams of fiber, Dr. Saunders, would you recommend in a day? Can you get too much, or would you just know that because you're running to the bathroom too often?
Well, actually, a good diet has as much fiber as you can get in it. It's a lot of food. So if you think of like a whole plate of salad, a dinner plate, a big dinner salad is only about 4 grams of fiber. An apple is only about 3 grams of fiber, and you need 40 grams of fiber a day, just kind of as a minimum. People who live in places where they're gathering food, for example, where they don't have any processed food, they can eat upwards of 80 grams of fiber a day. And it's actually better for you. They find in their intestines, in their colon, they have a broader breadth of bacteria, different types of bacteria, which gives resilience and improves immune function and decreases inflammation. So yeah, that good question. The fiber, eat all the fiber you can. There's no limit. That's a carbohydrate, but all the fiber you can, no limit. And then the simple sugars, glucose, fructose, sucrose, all those oses, limit those.
In the Diabetes Solution Kit, there are some free foods as well. So you won't be starving. Some of those are really good fibrous foods. Actually, you know what? I was just thinking about cucumbers, but I'm pretty sure Dr. Saunders informed us that cucumbers are a fruit. Is that right?
They are a fruit. Yeah.
That was new to me. Did not know that. Has seeds on the inside, so I suppose that's why.
Yeah.
Always learning. Okay. Speaking of fiber, we have Robert here is asking, what is the correct dosage for fiber greens powder? 1 capful, 2 capfuls before eating, after, morning or night? And Robert says, how soon should I expect results? Still doing the low carb diet.
Okay. So as far as the fiber greens, I just use one a day in water, mix it up, drink it down. Then that's pretty easy. And how soon should you expect results? That depends. That's a great question. I hope everybody listens to this, because Leslie just told us about one guy, 7 days, his blood sugar's from 160 down to 80. It's like, wow, right? Okay. Not everybody has that. And it depends on how much insulin resistance you have. The cells fill up with sugar, and some people, it's going to take a while to use up that sugar before they start making more insulin receptors so that you can become insulin sensitive again. So it's not a simple one-to-one thing. It can take anywhere from a few days. We've seen people go, wow, a few days, I'm all better. Other people, 6 months, they're coming back and saying, gosh, my blood sugar came down to 120. Why won't it go down to 80? There are differences. Everybody's different.
Here's a really fun note here from Glenn. Let's see. We met Glenn a couple of years ago, I think, or maybe even a year ago. I'm not exactly sure when we chatted. But he started the Diabetes Solution Kit 2 years ago and still holding his own. I do have to come back to the program from time to time, but still holding my weight loss and A1C numbers, lower blood pressures, etc. Love the weekly program. Very helpful, especially the question and answer time.
Yeah. Good work.
So good.
That's awesome.
That's the beauty of the Diabetes Solution Kit. And I had this discussion with some people earlier too, that even if you make a mistake, you know how to go back to phase 1 and do it again. So if you go to phase 2 and you're trying some new foods and you're like, uh-oh, that did not work, you can go back to phase 1, so just, it's such a good program, and it's working for a lot of people. Okay. Let's see. Greg said, I had lab work on June 8th, A1C of 9.5. I started searching and discovered Barton Nutrition and Dr. Saunders webinars. I purchased the Diabetes Solution Kit in late June and began the process on July 8th. I had bad high carb days for several days in a row during September and October, but returned to the regimen late October. I had lab work on November 15th, yesterday. A1C of 6.2, and the doctor was thrilled. I will continue the regimen to get an even lower A1C.
Wow, that's an incredible drop in such a short period of time. And I love what he said was he wasn't really good on the program, that he had days that he messed up. Guess what? It still works. It's okay. That's the amazing thing.
Love it.
Yeah,
so
I love
encouraging.
that.
Greg, I would love to chat with you if you're open to that. Okay, Juliet says, I'm still on 40 units of insulin from 105 units. Will it be dangerous if I just stop the insulin while taking all the necessary supplements? What can happen? Working on this since April, and I'm wanting to stop the insulin.
So it's only dangerous to stop insulin. Remember, I'm giving general information here. It's only dangerous to stop insulin if your pancreas is not making insulin. So if your pancreas is not making insulin, you need insulin. So stopping that might not be a good idea. How do you know? Well, that's why we do the C-peptide test. Remember C-peptide? That test tells how much of the insulin in your body is from your pancreas, because the insulin you're injecting doesn't make C-peptide. Only your pancreas will make it. So when your pancreas makes insulin, it's extra long, and then you're in order to activate it, you have an enzyme that cuts off that C-peptide. And that just hangs around for a little while, and the insulin goes to work and does its work, but you have that extra one from your pancreas. So that's how you know if your pancreas is working. And so that's the next thing to do, is say, okay, I've got I'm injecting insulin down to 40. That's a decent amount, where now you can check your pancreas to see if you're making insulin. And if your pancreas is making insulin, then you can take next steps and get off that injection.
Awesome. Okay, really good question here from Roy. Any suggestions about Thanksgiving? And a year ago, we did a webinar. Actually, we had a friend, Dana Cushing, who we were doing some webinars with, and she dedicated an entire webinar to, let me see, what was it called? Low Carb Thanksgiving. She works also with patients who are type 2 diabetics. And so I'm going to post the link to that here. But Dr. Saunders, do you have any ideas or anything you want to share about that?
Well, don't eat too much. It's not that hard. Even if you're on phase 1, think about it. I mean, you can have cooked green beans, and we always have like Brussels sprouts and stuff like that too. And then, yeah, have a turkey, and you're still clearly within your 20 grams of carbohydrates. You're not even going to get close. And you can still enjoy Thanksgiving with everybody else. Just be choosy and pick things out and go, okay, well, maybe I'm not going to have those sweet potatoes with the marshmallows on top. Darn, I love that stuff. I'll have something else instead.
I think I posted the link to this, but I was also just thinking, guys, there are some amazing alternatives. It sounds terrible to say it that way, alternatives to mashed potatoes, but cauliflower mashed potato, cauliflower mashed cauliflower is really good. It's really good. Sometimes I feed it to my kids and they don't even know that it's not potatoes. So there are options. I feel like now more than ever, there are options. So have fun, bring something that you know you will love if you're joining others, so that you don't feel deprived. That would be my advice. Hopefully that link will work, but we'll see. Okay. Give me a second here to get back. Oh, so many good messages, you guys. Okay. Bruce. Oh, Bruce, how are you? He says, I'm having trouble keeping my blood sugar down below 100. But I'm eating bread and an apple a day. Sometimes eating pizza for dinner, which is a no. If I eliminate those 3 things, would I see it go down below 100? It's a silly question, but I just want to know if I'm overdoing it.
I'm pretty sure you would. I'm pretty sure you would see a big difference there. So pizza is something that people who are predisposed to getting type 2 probably should just avoid altogether. And here's why. It's calories on top of calories on top of calories. What it is, what is pizza? It's carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and pretty much nothing else. And so the fats from the cheese blocks your insulin receptors, makes you insulin resistant, and then you have crust that has a lot of carbohydrates in it that raises your insulin levels and raises your carbohydrate levels. It's just fried foods and pizza and things that are mixed carbohydrates and fat and carbohydrate together, like fried foods, pizza, and like ice cream. Those kinds of things are just probably things you should just avoid altogether generally.
There are some low carb options for, I mean, I hate to say this, but for pizza, and I'm not even talking about the crust, but if you're someone like me who actually doesn't care about the crust, I just like I like the sauce and the toppings. You can do that low carb very easily. So something to think about. All right. Okay, got done with those. Great question here from Elfreda. This is another one of those things that everyone's going to want to listen to. Do I stay on metformin while on phase 1?
Yes. The answer is yes. Stay on it. You don't need to stop medications or insulin or anything like that until you've reached a level of your blood sugar being normal. If your blood sugar is getting low, you definitely need to start talking to your doctor about getting off medications. And sometimes you have to explain to your doctor, because the doctor's going to be like, well, I don't know what to do. What do I do? Because we're not taught how to stop a medication. We tell people, or we're told to tell people, here's a medication, you'll be on this for the rest of your life. And that's all. So what happens? Well, you just explain to the doctor, look, my blood sugar's getting low and I'm really worried about hypoglycemia. That which medication should I stop first? And that's a really, because then they just have to pick one of them, and then you've given them a simple thing to do that they can do.
That's good. What a great problem to have. Okay. Joby says, can you tell me what you know about the LifeWave X39 patches for diabetes patients?
I've seen them. I've read about them. I've had them in my office. The answer is, I don't know. I don't have any knowledge or experience with them to be able to say that's a good thing or not. I don't know.
Okay. Let's see. I like this question from Roy. Well, we kind of talked about Thanksgiving, but he's wondering, should I avoid honey baked hams?
Yeah, sugar cured hams of any kind. Okay, so I think like if you eat the ham, it's okay. They have like the sauce. The honey baked ham has that sauce that you pour over the top of it. That it's sugar and spices is what it is, which is great. But yeah, that's going to add to your carbohydrates, and that brings us to something to consider, and that is avoiding the taste of sweet. So the getting off of sweets is really important, and I know about that because I'm one of those. I have a sweet tooth, right? I'm one of those. I just love sweet things. And when I was a kid, I was scraping candy off the sidewalk. That was, the sun is melting it into the sidewalk, and I scrape it off and I would eat it. But don't tell my mom, right? I had to, and then I would eat sweets later on when I grew up. I was like, hey, I can buy anything I want. And I would have a pack of Skittles in my car, and I'd just be popping Skittles. And after a while, I thought, gee, they're not really good for you. So I switched to raisins, and then I go, wow, they're still sweet too, right? That's just sugar too. So then I switched to almonds, and I go, well, almonds still have a little bit of carb. They're better. So then I kind of alternated between almonds and those little baby carrots. So that transition took a long time. It's not something that, well, some of you are just amazing. I am just awed by how some of you just like today we talked about getting off the Mountain Dew. The can is still in the refrigerator. And this is someone who had like a habit of Mountain Dew on a daily basis. And now the can is still in the refrigerator and he hasn't touched it. I'm amazed by those people because I don't have that kind of willpower. So what I've had to do, and I think the best way to look at this, is to switch out your sweets for different things like nuts and baby carrots and cucumbers, and have stuff like take from the free food stuff that you can munch on, and I found that works. If I have something there, then when I'm craving, then I could just have some nuts and I'm good.
Good stuff. Sugar is hard.
It's hard. It's addictive, and I'm one of those.
I'm pretty sure my daughter can smell it in our house if there's sugar. She knows it's there, and she'll look everywhere until she finds it. So I know. Okay. I got to chat with Mel this week, and she just texted in. She said, fantastic program, a real lifesaver for me. I lost 20 pounds in 2 weeks, and my A1C is around 6 from 10.
Wow.
I know.
Wow, in 2 weeks?
I know. Jeez. I'm not making this stuff up, guys. Everyone has to type their own stuff. It's not me making this stuff up. So you can see it. blood pressure pills and water pills. My goal is to get off of Jardiance. Thank you all so much. The support is fantastic. So I love chatting with her. She was so fun. Hopefully we can share some more of these stories with you guys because they're just so encouraging. Okay. Rosalind says, Dr. Saunders, I had labs done 2 weeks ago and they all came back in the green except for my blood sugar. I'm taking epidurals to relieve pain. The steroids, I believe, are increasing my weight. I'm not eating anything crazy. I'm eating more vegan style meals. Could it be that the shots and pain is causing my sugar to be somewhat elevated? I had gotten it down at one point to readings between 98 and 116. Now it's back up to 140 to 160. Is there anything I could do to change my course? I'm on Tresiba and Ozempic weekly.
Okay, I'm sorry that, you're in a really hard position because having those injections, steroid injections, steroids are stress hormones. Stress hormones we were talking about earlier raise your blood sugar by making you insulin resistant. And they cause you to put on weight because when you get insulin resistant, your fat cells don't get insulin resistant, and this insulin tells the fat cells make more fat. So this snowballs really easily. Why? Because you put on more fat, and then you're more insulin resistant because you have more fat. And then your insulin goes up, and then you put on more fat, and then where's the end of? There's no end of that cycle. So being on those steroids is really hard. So you're in a really, really hard situation. And so here's what I think. I think if you just do phase one, just stay with phase one, because I know it gives you carb cravings, especially. That's what those hormones do. And yes, they're just injecting it into your back. And you think, oh, it just stays there. No, it doesn't. When they inject it in there, it goes into your blood. It suppresses your adrenal glands. It does all of the damage that steroids do. So it's a very difficult thing that you have to deal with. And it's, I don't know how you're going to do it, but if you can just stay on phase one and go, okay, 20 grams of carbs a day, that's all I'm going to do, and stick with that. I think then you won't gain weight as easily because you're not going to make as much insulin because you won't be taking in enough sugar to raise your insulin levels. So I think that will help the most.
Okay.
And a ketogenic diet for people in pain, for people with chronic pain and those kind of things, ketogenic diet has been used for 100 years for those kinds of things. And even little children that have epilepsy, they have the epilepsy where, seizure disorders, right? And they put them on a ketogenic diet. And as long as they're making ketones, as long as they're burning fat, it has a calming effect on the brain. So it has a calming effect, preventing seizures and calming pain. So I think phase one is going to be really helpful. I hope that works. Let us know.
Keep us updated. Yeah. Rosalind, I think you're usually on Facebook. So feel free to comment there or you can email me, Leslie@bartonpublishing.com. Okay. A couple questions about A1C. So let me see if I can find these again. Alfredo wants to know, what are the A1C calculations? Is it blood glucose reading over a 3-month period?
Okay, sort of. Here's what it is. Hemoglobin is the protein, the red stuff inside of the red blood cells. It's what makes your red blood cells red. Wasn't there a song about that? What makes that's what it is. Oh darn it, I forgot what it was. Anyway, so what makes the red blood cells red is hemoglobin. And that hemoglobin is in the red blood cells, which last about 3 months in your body, right? So these red blood cells are circulating for about 3 months. Within about 3 months, the spleen clears them out and says, "You're old. Come on, you're out," and kicks them out. But during those 3 months, they're swimming in your fluid, right, in the blood. And that fluid has a certain sugar level. And the more sugar is in the blood, it'll attach to that protein. It'll just attach onto the protein. And so you get more and more sugars attaching onto that hemoglobin molecule. If you have low sugar, then you have very few attached onto that hemoglobin molecule. If you have a really high blood sugar, then you have a whole bunch of them attached. And so that is what the hemoglobin A1C is about. That's where it comes from. So you can use that number of how much sugar is attached to those hemoglobin molecules to give you an idea of how high your blood sugar was on average over about 3 months, because that's how long those red blood cells are in existence.
Hey, Leslie, I just want to interject here. You know you've got the right doctor when your doctor's singing songs about hemoglobin and red blood cells, right?
What makes the red man red? I don't know. Peter Pan. Yeah.
Oh boy, that's funny.
Peter Pan.
Oh.
It's hemoglobin.
I just love, and I've mentioned this so many times, but I just so appreciate Dr. Saunders' visuals for these things. And now that we got the marketing guy on this webinar, speaking of which, he does all of these like visual descriptions of things that I feel like we need to turn into some visual videos because they're so good and nobody else is doing it. And so just my little.
Hey, I'll share one real quick that I love. Probably my favorite one that Dr. Saunders shared recently. The idea of how he formulates supplements is this, it's like a cast on a broken arm. It's to support the body so the body can heal itself, versus supplements and medications that are designed to keep you on them forever.
Yes. So good. He's got so many of these and I don't know where he pulls them out of. They're so good.
I don't either.
Okay. All right. We got a few more questions here. We'll see what we can do. Okay. So all right. So we did the hemoglobin A1C. Now, I believe Dr. Jonathan Lockwood says he has his test, his A1C and his C-peptide test scheduled for this Friday. A1C was 7.1 on August 12th. What number should I be looking for this Friday, especially the C-peptide test you recommend?
Okay, so C-pep. So the question is, what should the level of C-peptide be? And that's usually around 1. So it can be like 0.5 up to 2, 3. If you're getting over 4, that's pretty high. If you're getting 5, that's really high. 6 is pretty high. Just to give you an idea, it should be around 1 or 2. Somewhere in there would be sort of average. You can take that and you can say, okay, if you're injecting insulin, it's not going to make C-peptide. Only your pancreas makes C-peptide. So if your C-peptide is 0.3, then that's not a lot. And if your blood sugar is 200, then you have your pancreas is putting out very little insulin to take care of all that blood sugar. So that's a problem. But if your blood sugar is 200 and your C-peptide is 6, then your pancreas is putting out a ton of insulin to take care of that blood sugar. And that means your pancreas is working really well over time.
Okay, I'm going to ask you these quick. Let's see, Iman, I had a non-fasting blood test at the doctor's office. A1C is 5.8, was 5.6 sugar, 1:30 a.m. taking metformin and berberine supplement. Have high blood pressure, taking blood pressure medication, trying to get below 99. Any suggestions?
Okay, 5.8 is not bad. That's pre-diabetes. It's not really even a type 2 yet, specifically. So yeah, the suggestion is go on phase 1. You know what? It's really good and it really works. And we've had several examples today of people who've called in and say, yeah, I did it and it worked. So just do phase 1 and your hemoglobin A1C should come down to 5.2 to 5.4. That range would be great.
Okay. Leroy says, any input on BioLife blood booster, if you're familiar with it?
Life blood booster. Nope, not familiar with it.
Okay. Sorry, Leroy. Let's see. I missed that about C-peptide. That affects blood sugar.
Yeah, the C-peptide, but the C-peptide doesn't specifically affect blood sugar. It's the leftover after your pancreas makes insulin, spits out this insulin molecule, but it has to be activated by an enzyme, comes and cuts off the C-peptide, and then that is the good part. And the C-peptide's the waste product. It's not truly waste product, but it's a waste product.
Okay. Final questions coming from Krish. Krish always has the good questions. So let's see. Good gut health is critical for all, especially type 2 diabetics. Maintaining a healthy gut flora is critical to avoid many disorders of the gut, such as leaky gut. I have 2 questions based on what I read on the internet. Is that your favorite thing to hear when people ask questions from what they read on the internet?
I read on the internet. No, I love it.
Krish knows,
I love people doing their research.
Yes. And Krish is a student and a teacher. And he always has really good questions, seriously. And you know that too. But for maintaining good gut health, okay, wait, what am I saying here? For maintaining good gut health, it is critical to have a proper ratio of the gut flora. That is 85% of the good microbes and 15% of the bad ones. Is this true? Any idea?
Yes and no. That's not really the way it works. There are hundreds of different types of bacteria. And what you really want is breadth of different types. You want a lot of different types. So if you're eating the same thing every day, you're getting like all you get is like benefiber or something. It's the only type of fiber you're feeding those bacteria. Then you're getting a whole bunch of this one, but not very much of the other ones. What happens when something damages the one? Well, then you're left open to creating problems in the intestines. So what you want is breadth, a lot of different types. And the way to do that is by feeding them a lot of different types of fiber. So, sometimes you're going to have broccoli, and sometimes you're going to have spinach, and sometimes you're going to have fruit, and sometimes you're going to have an avocado, and then sometimes you're going to have jicama. And mushrooms are actually really important for a type of fiber. So as you're eating a lot of different types of fiber, you're getting different types of bacteria. That's the healthy gut flora. The healthiest gut flora is less of a lot of different types than, more of one type.
Okay, this is good. Okay, you get to go be with your patients. Thank you again. Yeah. See you next week, Dr. Saunders.
Okay. See you next week.
And all of you hanging out here, thank you so much for joining. I think we got through most of the questions. I think we have one left actually here from Bruce. Should I cut out C-peptide supplements? That I don't know, but we can ask that next week. And make sure you guys join us next week. Thank you, Eric, for hopping on here with us. This has been fun. You know what? I just remembered something I forgot to mention. If you go to bartonnutrition.com, you can use the code webinar25 for 25% off all of our supplements. So be sure to do that. But Barton Webinar will also take you to the information about our webinars, our top 10 questions that people ask, a link to our YouTube channel where you can see all of our past webinars and do searches there for maybe specific topics that you're interested in learning about. I think that's it. Anything else from you, Eric?
No, thanks for letting me sit in. This is energizing. When you do marketing, this is kind of stuff that makes you want to go out there and sell more products. So
yeah. It is good. It's fun. And when you get to hear the stories from all of you guys about how your lives are changing. I mean, this is motivating for our entire team, and it keeps us doing what we're doing, and it's so exciting. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for hopping on each week. And again, if you're interested in sharing more about your personal story, I'd love to hear from you. Leslie@bartonpublishing.com. So I think with that, we'll see you guys next week. Invite a friend. Bye, guys.